Council members Benton, Ellis, Eastlick, Hill, Vice Chair Lee, Nash, Webb, and Weiner. All right, nobody has signed up for public comment, so we will move along. Without objection, I do have a consent agenda of item number 1, RS 2024-357 by Councilmember Welsh. Exempts Taco y Mariscos Los Carnales, located at 465 Morton Avenue, from the minimum distance requirement for obtaining a beer permit pursuant to section 7.08.090.e of the Metropolitan Code. And item number 4, BL 2024-304, Webb and Bradford, amends section 16.08.012 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to add a new exemption related to storm shelter occupancy standards. Do any of those need to come off consent?
So you're saying that 2 and 3 are on or off consent?
2, 3 are off consent. So again, item number 1 and item number 4 are on consent.
I do have questions about 4, so if you don't mind telling me.
Okay. Item number 4 comes off consent. Matter of fact, at this point, I will just do the consent calendar to completely.
So if we have a question, then they have to come off.
Right. All right, so we'll just start at the top. I've already read the caption into the record, so this is RS 2024-357 Welsh. Do I have a motion?
She is next door. Do you want her to come in? She said something to me as we're both of them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get her in since it's off consent. So while we're waiting for her, do I have a motion on this one?
So moved.
And a second? Okay.
Second.
Ms. Welsh, would you like to talk about your resolution?
If I'm thinking of the correct resolution, this is for a permit to allow a beer permit.
Yes.
To a restaurant that's actually, it's not, the church in question that they're having a problem with is actually across Nolensville Pike. So there really isn't any kind of issue at all with the restaurant. It just happens to fall within that footage, even though it's across, clearly on the other side of Nolensville Pike.
Okay. Any questions or discussions on that one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting?
Thank you.
I've got 9 in favor and 0 across the board. Since I know items 2 and 3 will probably have some discussion, let me go ahead and get number 4 out of the way. All right, so do I have a motion on BL 2024-304?
So moved.
And a second. Any questions or discussions related to this? Go ahead, Councilmember.
I would love to know the impetus for this piece of legislation.
I'll defer to either Ms. Webb as the primary sponsor or if we have someone from the administration.
So this legislation, we actually received a call from the State Fire Marshal's office. What this legislation does, the State Fire Marshal in the state is going to do the same thing statewide next summer. They haven't done it yet, so this is a short-term issue for us to solve here. What it does, a Group B occupancy, which is any of your buildings that are education, daycare services, things like that. Before 2015, they were not required to be built at storm shelter regulation. So that's your concrete block, your Kevlar systems, anything that can withstand a 250 mile an hour wind. Anything you can't throw a 2x4 through at 100 miles an hour. So in 2015, they changed the code to where anything that was built, new construction or an addition, had to be to storm shelter standards. So if you're building a whole new school, obviously you would want that whole thing built to those standards. But there was not an exemption if you're building a small addition. And so an example would be, let's say I'm building a 1,200 square foot addition to my cafeteria. It's like a dishwashing area. The way the code is currently written, that would have to be storm shelter standards, which makes it incredibly more expensive. You can't fit any of your occupants in there based off the percentage of what your occupant load is for the whole school. So this exemption would say, if that addition to the structure does not increase your occupancy load by 50% or more, you are exempt. And it's going to be in line with the Metro Fire Marshal's fine with it, the State Fire Marshal's fine with it. We're trying to make sure that there's no issues for our Metro schools who are going to be doing a lot of additions and construction work this summer while the students are out. They can't wait until next June when the State Fire Marshal changes their rule.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Any other questions?
Said it any better. Thank you, Will.
Any other questions or discussions on this one? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any not voting? All right, 9 in favor. All right, to the main event, ladies and gentlemen, bills on second reading. I've got BL 2024-182, Evans, Segal, Horton, Huffman, and others. This amends Title 16 of Metropolitan Code of Laws to clarify who may update the official website regarding issuance of permits and notices, remove requirements for washer and dryer hookups in certain homes, and remove and separate bathroom facilities at gas stations. So we will go ahead and get a motion for the bill.
So moved.
And a second? All right. Now, before we have discussion or questions on the bill, there are 3 proposed substitutes. I will take each one of those in order. We will start with the first substitute by Evan Segal. Do I have a motion on that substitute?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All right. Ms. Evan Segal, would you like to kind of discuss your substitute?
Yes. The substitute takes into account feedback that we have received from members of the public after public meetings, from council members and council. It preserves who can update the website. We don't have to ask Bill to update the website himself, though I would maybe like to see him try to do so. I think that would be just Will would not like to see that, but just maybe give him 5 minutes at a computer and see how far he could get. But that would be probably hazing, and we don't want to do that to poor Bill. He has enough hazing on him as it is. But it allows him to let IT update the website. It takes out an old provision for separate sex bathrooms at gas stations. It only applies to gas stations. It's a local rule only. It does not get rid of bathroom requirements at gas stations. It just allows bathrooms to follow the International Building Code. So for buildings, I believe it's occupants 25 and less, they could have 1 unisex bathroom. For more, they can choose how they want to split up the bathrooms. They could be unisex, they could be separate. It would be up to the gas station as long as they met bathroom requirements for occupancy. We tried to do some digging to find out where this requirement had come from, and it's possible that at some point the state law made it where if we didn't have it, there wouldn't have been bathrooms in gas stations, but as far as we can tell now, that's no longer an issue, so it doesn't get rid of bathrooms by getting rid of our local rule. It just defaults to the building code itself. And then the third cleanup on the substitute, it preserves our single-family washer-dryer requirements, so we only have those in single families currently. They're a little confusing how they're written. We use sort of our own lay language here, which requires, it talks about electric hookups and vent requirements, which is different from the electrical load and ducting requirement in the code. This would preserve the washer and dryer requirement, but if you say had a ventless system would allow you to put in hookups for that system, or if you had a vented one, you could put up hookups for that one. Energy efficient units that are ventless today, even though those dryer cycles run for about 6 hours, they use less than half the energy of a regular dryer that runs for 45 minutes. And so this will provide flexibility going forward so people can choose which system they want to use in their single family homes. And the substitute brings that back in. Originally we had gotten rid of that, so we were gonna see if the market would drive it. As a lot of us know, the market actually drives multiple hookups in houses today, but just based on feedback from folks, we've added the requirement back in, but just provided that flexibility so as energy standards and technology evolves, our code evolves with it.
Okay. Any questions for the sponsor on the first substitute?
I have,
Councilmember?
so that I can see if I'm keeping it straight. Okay, I understand about the hookups. And my question has to go with the bathrooms, the 2 for according to how many people, and then the smaller one depending on how many people. Is that already in law or in statute?
Yes, so
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, the International Building Code has been adopted by council. We currently use the 2018 International Building Code, and it sets out the number of bathrooms that are required in commercial buildings based on the occupancy rate set by the fire marshal. And so this would default to that standard instead of having our own separate local standard, which is different. The International
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So currently, we have our own that is different from the international. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but just
Thank
for
you.
gas
Okay.
stations. Yeah.
That explains why.
Yeah.
Councilmember
I have a
Ellis.
question.
And I guess I want to clarify with Will and Hannah instead of the bill sponsor. So when it remove requirements for washer and dryer hookups in certain homes, what does that mean to you all?
So the way its current bill is written, it would remove that language because the International Building Code does not require washer and dryer hookups.
Okay.
The way, hang on, let me get another book. So the International Building Code, when it comes to sanitation, residential code, when it comes to sanitation, requires 4 things for a dwelling: toilet facilities, a kitchen, sewage disposal, and water supply to fixtures, meaning if you have a toilet, if you have a sink, you have to have a water supply to them at all times. So the washer and dryer requirement was actually a local amendment that council years ago had added in, saying, okay, we think this is important as well. So if that is removed, it goes back to what is in the code. There is no requirement for that. There are other parts of the code that say, hey, if you have a dryer, you have to have it vented correctly, and that's a fire safety issue to make sure, you know, the vent's not overheating, things like that. But the way we see this substitute written is, and I'll defer to the sponsor here, but it seemed like there was some confusion about the language. It said washing machine hookups, and it said electrical hookups.
Yes.
I think possibly people were confusing dryer electrical hookups with electric dryer. The way we see it is dryer electrical hookups would be needed for a dryer, whether it's gas, electric, nuclear, I don't know, whatever else it could be, because you still have to have electricity to turn the drum and run the thermostat, you know, all that stuff. So the language in this substitute has been changed to say washing machine connections, dryer connections. And we see that as entailing everything that's required. You know, if you're washing, you gotta have 2 water lines, your drain, and your 110.
So to clarify then, and to narrow in then on the less ambiguous question, the washer hookup, does this remove that requirement from certain homes?
The substitute
New
or the
builds.
original bill?
Substitute.
Yeah.
No, the substitute would keep it in there. The only thing it removes, I believe, is the word electrical
Okay.
The substitute removes electrical, but it also removes and dryer vents.
and dryer vent. So now we're just saying what you need for a washer and what you need for a dryer.
So you're not taking that out now, you're keeping it in?
The requirement is still there, just clarifying the language. So we're not using our own language that has to be interpreted by folks. Builders can see washer, dryer, they can go to the code, which they've been tested on. And see
I
that.
think too, the code, we use vent and duct differently.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say dryer vent, and that gets very confusing when you get into it. This is kind of just saying, everything you need to use a washer, everything you need to use a dryer, that'll be what's considered the hookup for it.
So, I don't remember which council person said they didn't have a washer and dryer hooked up. Sandra. So if that's in our codes now, how did that builder get away with that if she lives in Nashville?
It's not a single or two family.
So
Oh, she lives in an apartment, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
This
okay.
is 1 and 2 family.
Okay,
Yeah, there is no requirement currently in Nashville for washer or dryer.
On
in
any
multi-
type of home.
In multifamily.
multifamily, okay.
There is for single and two family,
Yeah.
that's what's being amended here.
Okay.
That's being edited here. There's still a requirement for washer hookups and dryer hookups in the substitutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And just a reminder, questions and conversations, make sure you get recognized by the chair first. So I saw Councilmember Nash, and then we'll go to Eastland.
I just want to thank the sponsor. I think that's a great compromise.
Yes.
I still think it's important for folks to have a washer dryer hook up in their homes. Thank you.
And I see the way it's written where it's more vague. I'm not,
Gotta ask first,
I
remember.
did.
Oh, oh, you did? Oh.
Yeah.
He gave me the hand.
You can smack her back.
I'm not aware of any other mode of washing machine other than electric right now.
Well, I'm sure there's some hand cranked ones in the museum downstairs.
Okay. Well, that's
I was about to say that.
They're all-in-one units, which are electric, but
Yes.
they're all-in-one.
Yeah.
They're-
So-
Your all-in-one still takes a 1.
So is there a way through this that a builder would not have to run power to that area for that?
No, because you still have your International Electric Code.
That's what I'm-
It's just- We
okay.
have like 5 other books
That's
that
what I
go
was
in with
just trying to
these.
figure out.
Yeah, so
'Cause
that would be.
I know you can have a gas dryer,
Yeah.
you know, and all that, but I'm not aware of any gas washers or any solar washers or nuclear.
Yeah. forward.
I have
Go ahead.
one question. So, just, again, I love to know the reason that bills are proposed. And so, in this case, we have washer and dryers and gas stations in the same bill. Could you please explain that, because I've gotten a gazillion questions about that, thing number one. Thing number two, why are we focusing on gas stations per se and not looking at all the other things that are in the code that probably need to be addressed? Why did we pick gas stations?
Yeah, so this was really originally designed as a comprehensive codes cleanup. Some of our codes cleanup actually fall in Chapter 17. And once we pulled the Chapter 17 ones out, and those are pending in a separate bill that is passed through council on first reading already, these were the three things left that were just Chapter 16. Because as y'all probably know, a lot of our building codes live in Chapter 17 and some live in 16. All these are nit cleanups that we're seeing as just needing to be done to clarify the code today and clean up old provisions that maybe had a reason when we put them in, but don't anymore. We, for example, on the website, we had cleaned that up for other directors in other departments, but we just didn't get to codes. Maybe we thought Bill was really good at coding because the codes maybe the word codes was confusing. So they were put together really just by default, because once you pulled out things like we didn't have a definition of half story, well, that's really a Chapter 17 issue. Even though that's administered by the codes department, we just sort of had these three things left, and they could have all been brought in their own bill, but since they were all just cleanup, they were brought together. So that is the first one. Why gas stations? We were really looking at changes that we made locally to the international code, not changes to the international code itself with this bill. And so they all fall into that bucket of local changes, of which frankly there just aren't a whole lot, but what we have, it's important to make sure as we're looking at it that we're staying up to date. When it comes to the IRC and IBC provisions itself, it didn't feel right from a timing perspective to look at those save for one, which we'll get to on the next bill. At the present time, as many of y'all probably know, we're on alternate cycle adoptions of the IRC and IBC in Nashville. So what that means is we use the 2018 IRC and IBC, which we adopted early 2019 or late 2018. It's normally end of the year, beginning of the next year. There's a 2021 IRC and IBC. We have not adopted that here because that was the next one. So we do every other one because it takes a lot of work. Can I just see this for a second? These are just, this is the IRC, this is the IBC. We also have wiring, plumbing, you know, it's a huge thing every 3 years, but codes, the department has to go through the whole thing every time and say what has changed, what local amendments we need. That process is actually already started for the 2024 drafts, and so I would expect before this committee at the end of this year, early next, to have the whole 2024 code and anything that we see needs updated within the code itself. That's really the right time, I think, to address that, because otherwise we're going to be touching something twice in less than a year. So that's why these now, and then also as we look at the 2024 on the local stuff, we can go ahead and incorporate that, but on the big code itself, that can be done in the normal process.
Or you could just feed everything into ChatGPT and let it tell you.
ChatGPT is really remarkable sometimes. I think that answers all of your questions. Okay.
Well, Councilmember Weiner, if you could do legislation through ChatGPT, then why were we here?
I know.
Any other questions on the first substitute?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm just wanting to clarify, because last time on the floor, I believe you were defending removing the connections by saying that that would help save money. It's not necessary, but people can still put them in. So you were also confused as to the language, is that correct?
Well, so what I would say is, I don't think it would save money. Councilmember Gamble, though, I think. I don't think it would save money. I think the market would continue to drive them to be built. I think we're
But was that
personally, philosophically, I would say that why are we treating single family different from multifamily? But what I've heard from my colleagues and from people in the community is that they really want to preserve that. and I want to honor that. And so we worked together to craft the substitute to try and compromise and make
So
everybody.
I'm just trying to understand, like, was your intention in the original bill to remove them, but now you've crafted it to just make the language more clear with the new codes?
Yeah.
Or your intention in the original bill was to make the language more clear, but in doing so, it removed them?
My original intent was to remove them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, okay.
Yeah.
But I really do second Councilman Nash's thanks for the amendment. I like it a lot.
All right, any other go ahead.
Thank you for recognizing me. Even though I'm not on the committee, I just want to echo the thank you to the sponsor, lead sponsor, for making the changes to the bill to bring back in the washer and dryers for single and two-family dwellings. I think it's important that we don't take away anything that improves quality of life for our residents, and that is something that is a huge benefit for single-family homes and two-family homes particularly, and even in some multifamily residents, they have wash and dry hookup, which is a commodity in a multifamily development. So want to thank the sponsor again for bringing that back in and fully support the substitute.
All right. Any further discussion or questions on this one? All right. All those in favor of the first substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, so let me make sure I've got an updated count here. 1, 2, 3. All right, I've got 10 in favor. All right, motion on the second substitute. All right,
So moved, and I will stand in.
all right, yeah, second?
Second.
Okay. All right, and just to clarify with Hannah, we can approve all these substitutes, it's not.
Correct. These are all recommendations to the full
That's what I thought.
council.
But I'm
All right.
going to make things easy on you. We are withdrawing the substitute
Okay,
in deference to what you did, which is fabulous. So,
all right. Moving on to the final substitute from Councilmember Prepteet. Do we have a motion on that substitute?
so moved.
And a second. All right, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. So this substitute was crafted really with the intention of preserving and essentially doing everything that the main sponsor's substitute has done. So first off, thank you to Council Members Gamble and Evan Siegel for their work on crafting the substitute that you all just considered. So with that being said, I'm going to be withdrawing the substitute.
All right.
I love them.
All right, so our final bill on the agenda is item number 3, BL 2024-183, Evans Segal, Horton, Huffman, and
On the bill
others.
as substituted.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Motion on the bill is substituted.
So move.
All right. All those in favor as the bill as substituted?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're moving on to the next one. BL 2024-183 amends Title 16 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to provide for housing, health, and safety of residents by streamlining codes provisions related to fireproofing requirements for middle housing creation and conversion, including specifically the creation of a large unit homes within the International Building Code and providing for NFPA-13D sprinklers and 1-hour fire resistant rated separation therefore. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right. I will go ahead and defer to the sponsor to explain, and we'll move on to discussion and questions.
Thank you for recognizing me again, even though I'm not on this committee. I would actually ask if this committee would consider it to defer this until 2 meetings, until the second meeting in May. This was a bill that was crafted. Memphis did some codes work that was preempted by the state. We went to the state to talk to the state about this. This was a compromise that we crafted working with the state after those conversations, and it was blessed by the state fire marshal. However, there is separately a bill pending before the House in committee right now as we sit here that's already passed the Senate that had bipartisan support that would actually make it where we would need to substitute this for a different bill. And so that we will know in the next week and a half what will come of that. And I think it's best that we give that time, and that way the local fire marshal, state fire marshal, and codes and I can all get together once we know how that goes.
All right, then I will make the motion for a 2-meeting deferral. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not voting? All right, that is 10 in favor, none against, none not voting. All right, with that, our agenda is complete and we are adjourned.